You think your dog notices when you leave, but the truth is, they notice it long before you're gone. It starts with something small, something you don't even register anymore. The way you stand up, the direction you walk, the sound of your keys that you didn't even realize had a pattern. To you, it's nothing. To your dog, it's the beginning of something they already understand, something they don't like. Before we get into this, if you're a dog lover too, hit like. Subscribe to our channel to understand your dog's brain better than 99% of owners. Because while you're thinking about your day, work, errands, whatever comes next, your dog is watching a sequence they've memorized, and they know exactly where it leads. There's a moment right before you leave where everything shifts. You might not see it, but their body does. A slight tension, a change in breathing, that quiet following from room to room that feels a little more intentional than usual. This isn't random behavior, it's anticipation, and it comes from something much deeper than habit. Dogs were never meant to be alone, not in the way we leave them. Long before houses, doors, and daily routines, they lived in groups, constantly surrounded, always aware of where the others were. Because being alone didn't just feel uncomfortable, it meant something was wrong, potentially dangerous. That wiring didn't disappear, it adapted. And now you are that reference point. Not just your owner, not just the one who feeds them, but what psychologists call a secure base. The same way a child uses a parent to feel safe in the world, your dog uses you. Which means when you leave, it's not just a quiet house, it's a break in something their brain depends on. But here's where it gets strange. Even after you're gone, your dog doesn't experience time the way you think they do. They don't look at clocks or count hours, but they do measure something you leave behind without realizing it. Your scent. Not just on your clothes or the couch, but in the air, floating, fading, changing, and your dog is tracking it. There's a theory, explored by researcher Alexandra Horowitz, that dogs use what's called a scent clock, meaning they don't just smell that you were there, they can sense how long ago you left. Every hour, your scent becomes weaker, less concentrated, more distant, and over time, your dog learns the pattern. They associate a certain level of your scent with the moment you usually come back, which means they're not just waiting randomly, they're following a timeline you can't see. There was even an experiment where researchers introduced a worn t-shirt fresh with the owner's scent into the room hours after the person had already left. And something changed. The dog stopped waiting, stopped going to the door, because as far as their brain was concerned, you hadn't been gone that long. That's how they measure your absence. Not in minutes, but in presence. But even that isn't the most important part, because what your dog feels while you're gone isn't just about time. It's about you. In studies using brain scans, scientists observed what happens inside a dog's brain when they smell different things: food, other dogs, strangers, and then their owner. What lit up the most was the caudate nucleus, the part of the brain linked to reward, pleasure, and positive expectation. And here's what matters. For many dogs, their owner's scent triggered a stronger response than food. Not hunger, not instinct, you. Which means when your dog is alone, they're not just bored or passing time, their brain is still oriented toward you, expecting you, looking for you. Even when they look like they're asleep, they're not fully off. They're in a kind of half alert state, listening, monitoring, waiting for something specific, a car sound that matches yours, footsteps in a pattern they recognize, the exact rhythm of your keys. And when none of it comes, that's when behavior starts to change. But this is where most people get it wrong, because not all dogs experience being alone the same way. Some dogs are simply uncomfortable, while others are genuinely distressed. One is called isolation distress. The dog doesn't like being alone, but they'd be okay with anyone, another dog or another human. It's about presence. The other is something deeper: separation anxiety. And this is where it becomes very specific, because it's not about being alone, it's about being without you. When that happens, their behavior can look confusing. Chewed furniture, scratched doors, torn cushions. It feels intentional, almost like punishment, like they're reacting to you leaving. But they're not. They're regulating themselves, trying to cope with something their brain is struggling to process. Stress hormones rise, cortisol increases, and their body looks for a way to release it. Chewing helps, not as revenge, but as relief, the same way someone might bite their nails without thinking. It's not logical, it's biological. And what happens over the course of the day is even more revealing because your dog doesn't stay in one emotional state, it changes. There's a pattern, a timeline, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. The first hour is the hardest. This is when everything spikes, right after you leave. The cues are fresh, your scent is strong, your absence is immediate. This is when barking starts, whining, movement, restlessness. Then something shifts. After a while, most dogs begin to settle, not because they're okay, but because their body can't stay at that level forever. They rest, sometimes sleep, and many even enter REM sleep, which means they dream. And based on what we know about memory and emotion, those dreams often involve social interaction, movement, familiar experiences. In a way, their brain is recreating connection while they're alone. But later in the day, something else happens, the anticipation phase. As your scent fades to a certain level and the environment reaches a familiar point, your dog becomes active again. They move toward the door, listen more carefully, and wait, not randomly or hopefully, but specifically, because according to everything their brain has learned, this is when you come back. And when you finally do, that reaction, the excitement, the jumping, the energy that feels bigger than the moment isn't just happiness, it's release. Studies show that the longer you're gone, the more intense that reaction becomes, not slightly, but significantly, because your absence wasn't neutral. It was something their brain had to process the entire time. So do dogs miss you when you leave? Yes, but not in the simple way we imagine. They're not just sitting there thinking about you. They're experiencing your absence, tracking it, adjusting to it, responding to it every hour in ways that are quiet and easy to miss. But once you understand it, their behavior starts to make sense. So what can you do with this? Not everything needs to change, but small things matter. Making your departures less dramatic, not turning leaving into an emotional event. Giving them something that engages their brain, especially their sense of smell, because for them, that's everything. And most importantly, understanding that when you walk out that door, your dog isn't just waiting. They're navigating a world where you are the center of how it makes sense. And when you come back, you're not just returning home, you're restoring something they never stopped looking for. If you've ever noticed your dog reacting in a way you couldn't explain, or doing something that felt completely out of character, comment it below. I read everyone. And if you want to understand your dog on a level most owners never do, make sure to like the video and subscribe, because once you start seeing these patterns, you don't look at them the same way.